Hi there. Hi guys. Um Hopefully this isn't going to be too depressing to watch. Second attempt. Today's Easter Monday, the 13th of April, and it is almost 2:45 in the afternoon. I'm noticing that I'm having a really hard time expressing myself, expressing thoughts, and I don't really know why that is. Except there's a couple of things that I know are affecting me. The corona situation is affecting all of us intensely. I'm noticing for myself, I'm noticing all sorts of patterns of alternately, during a week, for example. There are moments or times or pieces of days where I am basically in denial or in resistance to the whole thing. Not necessarily actually doing anything about that outside the house. I'm still inside. I'm still, keeping to myself. But that's the way I feel at those points. There are other times where I just go like, okay, so let me just drag my ass around to, find something positive to do, something constructive, something where actually after an hour or two the result looks different than it did before, that kind of thing. I am needing, I suppose I am relying on my capacity for self expression even more than I used to. And I think that from what I'm picking up, there's lots more people who are starting to find things tougher. It's like it goes in waves, like a sinus wave, where there are phases where you're coping actually rather well, or even surprising yourself by getting stuff done that you didn't expect to ever get done, things like that, jobs or whatever it is. There are phases like that, phases where suddenly there's like no resistance to the things and you get something done and it's satisfying and interesting to do even, Can be anything, can be any type of job. And then there's other moments where it seems like, all I can all I can do is sit and read. And after a couple of hours or either reading or on the internet, too much. I'm having to keep track of where I am, and the moment I become aware of that, I can I can actually do something, to pull myself back together from like a couple of factors. Um Having somebody in the house the whole time, in contrast to the situation that I was used to, was past tense, of seeing my husband very little, and so we always had something to talk about. Now we have coffee together and lunch and dinner and all of it, and even though he's in a different part of the house and he's got lots of work on his plate and he's busy and he's at the moment he's happy and content, I feel maybe there's another factor for me here, that he's had another phase. Our phases are different. There's that in a house. If you have several people, the people don't react to things in the same way all at the, in a, what do you call that? In the same pattern. People have highs and lows at different times, which is good, which is lucky, because then you can yank each other out of the swamp, potentially. I had to drag his ass out of the swamp, metaphorically speaking, yesterday morning. And I'm always turning our conversations about these types of things into sort of impromptu therapy sessions, because, it's what I can do. And well, there's, private things and details and relationship stuff that's been with us for a very long time, and a lot of it has to do with how you deal with your own energy, whether you sell out your own energy to others or not, or whether you can call back your energy to yourself. And so there's a vibrational thing going on there as well. And I am definitely not always aware of how much energy I basically make available in this house for my husband. I have to also pull back a bit again. There's that. It's a back and forth, constant river of patterns going one way, the other way, like so. And so I think it takes a toll. And I have to remind myself when I start vlogging again like this, that I have to talk about myself. I have to focus on, I can talk about all sorts of things that I saw on Facebook or things that I saw in the astrology of the moment, or that, and it's not working. And it doesn't make me feel any better. So then it won't make you feel any better. So, yeah. So I have to then figure out how to do this, how to actually be a person that can serve some type of a purpose. So lots of those different phases of basically, like, I have that none of what I'm doing ever really makes a lot of sense. On the other hand, I have done a lot of writing over the past week, alternating between my own little laptop, which is completely offline, and I only use a memory stick, to transfer the things to, back and forth. And on the other hand, I use the big desktop computer upstairs, which has all the internet and new windows and all the new things, which is brilliant, by the way. I have put so much stuff. Speaking of vibration and energy, I have put an enormous amount of stuff in there. So the result is right here. I can show you what it looks like, to the extent that it looks like anything. I fantasized a cardboard folder that has a picture that I had sort of left over from my earlier attempts. I have a couple of sheets of scribble paper in here. What's that? Notes, just where you jot down notes. And then I actually got into yesterday using images from my older oil paint period that I made these 20 years ago, something like that, 2000, before, actually 96 to 2000, that period of time. So it's more than 20 years ago. I incorporated some of them into my story here. I'm actually finding a sort of a language mode, or some type of a manner of writing that actually works for me, which is fairly new, and I'm really pleased with that. It's a third sheet with oil painting images on it. So these, actually, I had to select the paintings from my complete file of paintings that I've got. And I suppose there's another energy thing going on right there. Oil painting is exhausting to do. It's fabulous. I love it. I haven't done any for months and months, because the last thing that I embarked on, I kind of got sidetracked with my conversations with my dad at the time, and I gave up because, you know, it wasn't happening anymore. Then what I'm very pleased to see that they're actually like this first one here, for example. I think that just looks really pretty with that the light in the middle, the paler, lighter area in the middle with the daylight, and then this darker brown. I hope you can make that out if I put it like this. There's like, this is like a relatively, hang on a second. I thought it was husband coming gallivanting down the stairs. Nope. So this was a relatively honest painting, and that's the thing I was getting to with this. I'm seeing now that this one at the bottom is actually, it's actually stretched out too much like this. It should be more square. Nobody's gonna know, but I know, right? So there's that. There's paintings that I made from a particular type of emotion only, or for like 90% is that the way the thing felt at the time. Those paintings are all in here. Then there's a load of paintings that I made that were experiments in many, many ways. So like attempts at what happens if I do this? Could I create blah, 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 you know? Looking for ways and approaches and techniques and things. And I suppose it's very valid. Everybody who's really an artist goes through phases like that, where what you end up having is like yay big a pile of work where there's this much that's actually sort of transits through the years with you, that you can keep, yeah, that keeps, stuff that keeps, basically. So this one at the top here I'm really fond of, because it was actually probably the very first time that I made a painting that had something to do with the way my life felt at the time. I'd say, I don't know if you can make that out, but there's actually a female figure in there carrying you know, she's like a column with an arch on top of her, like so, on both sides. And she's got, actually I felt like when I was looking at this just now, like she looks very much like a high priestess, where normally a high priestess has these columns on the left and the right of her, which is a very old school traditional image. To me, in this particular case, I had to be my own high priestess, definitely. Also, I was the column. I couldn't move, because if I moved, the whole thing would come down. So that's what that was like. In the very distant background, there's actually kind of a lake in that painting right there. And there's like a hillside that you can make out very faintly with a couple of little trees. And you won't be able to make it out if I show you. That's why I'm describing it. In the very pale distance, there's two figures walking on the edge of that lake on the other side. And so that represents what my life was like with my mother back then. So I'm liking the colors a lot. I'm liking the way this prints on my printer. It's quite nice. So it does me the world of good to be able to have this type of imagery from that I made myself in a state of affairs where I had no soul retrieval. That was before everything. So this one at the bottom is like it's supposed to be like a sort of a spiritual gateway, if you like, that's closed. So I made this way later than the other one. And there's one more I will show you in more detail. This one I'm actually rather fond of. I've got this hanging in my hallway, this one. And it's like this part here, there's like a river, and this part here is life as I was, you know, experiencing it at the time, with this little sort of a square house bit in the middle. And up there would be life as it was supposed to be, or life as it was meant to be, as I saw it then, which now to me looks completely like the life of the soul, if you like. So the life that makes sense, the life that has all the parts actually in place, the life in the ideal state where it isn't incarnated, where everything is basically easy. That's the way I saw it then. But there was an influence coming from the soul atmosphere to the other side that I actually put into this painting several times. There's all sorts of lines going from up there to down here. And I can sort of relate very strongly to this sense of there being a future, there being so much more that was going, there was so much stuff that was going to happen to me when I made this. And I had no clue. So that's a good thought, right? Yeah, I think that's a really positive thought to have. So I remember making this little square bit in the middle with what looks like a house seen from the top, like a surface plan with little rooms and things happening inside. I remember I was completely desperate when I made this. And still, I was desperate because it was in 2011, I think, that I made this. It was one of the very few times later on that I managed to get oil painting done at all. I loved it. I have always loved oil painting. And I was, I suppose I was in many ways at a complete dead end as to figuring out what my life was supposed to be about, you know? Whereas nowadays, I've got too many things to talk about. So another expression of the same I'm hoarse again. I don't know what's going on. I'm not ill. I feel perfect otherwise. Another expression of the same basic things was that this was actually the first oil painting I actually ever made in this way on a larger canvas that's like supposed to be like a self-portrait with, actually I won't be able to make this out, but there's a tree right there next to a body of water, and it has a heart hanging on a chain in the tree. So the heart of this woman right here. And the other one, this is actually, let me see. Yeah, those are more or less the colors that they are in the painting. There's a woman sitting here looking into this very bright yellow field, which would be, for example, it could be a cornflower field. Not cornflower. Colza. What's that called in English? Cabbage flower. Very yellow, very bright in the sun. Beautiful. In the north of France, you get loads of those. Huge yellow fields spreading out all over like that. And then the same as with the other ones, I basically I have had so much fun with this. I have had so much that new things came out when I was painting. And actually, that's happening with the writing at the moment as well. Things are coming out that I wasn't expecting, and I can actually integrate some of this painting business in with that. I'm also I will try later today when the computer is free, to integrate more of my ink drawings that I've made over the past couple of months. I will have to wrap this up pretty quickly because hoarse and throat things and what have you. I've had loads of water. I'm hydrated perfectly. The other thing that I was thinking of sharing was that I have used my Chagall oracle that I made in the past couple of weeks together. So let me show you the cards again. This is the bag that I put them in, and these are the cards that I've got, just gold cardboard on the backs and really pretty paintings by Chagall himself, that I am basically, each time I draw a card from these, I will look up the image again and try to find some information on what the painting is about, what it was like for him when he made it, more or less, things like that. And then sort of extrapolate from that. Actually, that worked really well. I combined these with Marseille, Grimaud Marseille Tarot, and soul cards, so which look like this. Anybody who doesn't know what soul cards are should check that out right away. Leave this place and go check that out, because that's just completely awesome. And I did a 3x3 spread, basically, with 3 soul cards, 3 of the Chagall that I just sort of invented, or I used his work. Somebody else might have done this just as well. There's all sorts of tarot oracle out there based off of somebody's artwork, right? So there's like Gustav Klimt tarot and things like that, which I've always felt problematic, because that's just the way I feel about that. The work wasn't made in the spirit of creating a tarot deck, and in particular, for example, the Alphonse Mucha tarot, which is actually an aesthetic that I like rather a lot. I have a hard time with because I'm drawn to the images, but I have a problem with the fact that all of his work was originally intended as advertisement material, publicity posters for all sorts of products and alcohol and soap and what have you. And so I am not too confident about the actual relationship with so even though it's really pretty and I like it, so I that's why I also never wanted this Chagall oracle to become like this one, for example. I thought of the Chariot card. There's lots of ways, but I would feel like it's not close to what this image is really about. I want to find out what Chagall wanted to say with this image, so that's just my take on this. And he's a painter that I enjoy quite a lot. It's a different style, and I like looking at the images. It's just, there's a lot of bright colors and lots of things going on in there. So I found actually that my spread worked really well, in the sense that it did give me, because I haven't written for a couple of days, what with the Easter weekend and all, and other things with husband and all that, I haven't really done any writing, and it gave me a sense of, okay, so this is where I'm at. I actually got the first card from the tarot that I got from the Marseille Tarot was the Hanged Man, and so it that sort of was useful for me to use tarot as a clothes peg to hang on to what my process is like. I had the Hanged Man, then the 5 of Wands, and the the Page of Pentacles. So those are my 3 cards as it relates to my writing process. And the 5 of Wands I really understood to mean actually rather a lot in a Rider-Waite type meaning, to represent how it's a struggle and I'm having a lot of fun with it, but it's also a struggle. So I'm also trying to prove something to myself, which is okay because it's part of the deal. I'm kind of ambitious in a way also with it, whereas to a large extent I don't know what I'm ambitious about. So that's where the Hanged Man comes in, with the other cards showing me that if I am willing to see my world, to basically turn everything upside down, I will gain. The more I will actually get, the more I do that, the more I will gain from this process. So that's just been yeah, that was the first time that I actually used my Chagall cards that I made, and so everything can be used, you know. I know that. You know that. It's great fun to, yeah, to see it sort of come into this new realm of, you know, helping them to sort of shape what I'm thinking. I had where, yes, should I show them? I don't think don't want to go into too much detail anyway. It was nice, and what my husband just said also is that it was contributing to the reading, because both the tarot and the soul cards are very individual. They make me self-centered in a way, which can be a really good thing, but they make me focus on myself. And it was really striking to see that Chagall's work in the middle there gave me a sense of opening up to, which is what I have been doing, because in the writing process I have been like 10,000 times more aware of trying to write something that will be readable for somebody else. So something that another person can actually read, understand, potentially enjoy, something that can make sense. Just like I'm making these videos, basically I'm trying to actually communicate something, which is a social, you know, you have to make your thing available in some way or another, and sometimes that was really hard. It's a mindset that I certainly didn't have when I was making those oil paintings. None at all. I was just doing my thing. So there was a phase for that. There's apparently long-term phases, like 10 years, 15, 25 years phases for things. And then there's short-term phases. And maybe that's why I'm also, you know, trying to wriggle my way out of this with what's with the lockdown and all the things, is we're compressed into our homes, all of us, each one of us. We're having to deal with all sorts of stuff which you don't hear people talk about, really, because when they meet on the street, it's basically, you know, arm's length and more than that. And yeah, you know, insecure and coping and counting the days and stuff like that. Nobody goes into any details, which is great, because you don't need other people's details on top of yours, do you? So yeah, I think I've actually managed to say a couple of things, so I'm gonna leave it for now. It's half an hour in already. Wow, I can always talk, apparently. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. I will see you again this week sometime. Okay, I'm hoping to get back to my writing, because it maybe that's where I need to go next. You know. See you soon. Bye bye for now. Thank you.